Wow, man, I can't believe what our tax dollars have figured out here. You know, this is...
Could you introduce yourself, Mark?
Yes, I'm Mark Wray. My family's in Ginnie Springs for over 40 years. We have approximately 3 miles on the Santa Fe River and 8 different springs, which right now, all the springs at Ginnie Springs are impacted. There is no plant life living in the springs, and I can assure you it's not from swimmers. We've had swimmers and divers there for 40 plus years, and never have I seen my springs look this way. Not only Ginnie Springs, I had the pleasure yesterday of going on a little spin in the boat, and we took some water samples. Post Springs, very sad. It's visibility probably about 6 feet. Algae from bottom to surface. Lily Springs, looks like river water. Maybe you got 4 or 5 foot visibility. Nothing but algae on the bottom, growing, no plant life whatsoever. Not even hydraulic. Dropped into Blue Springs. Blue Springs is the only spring right now in the Santa Fe that has vegetation. It has plenty of hydroa, it has eelgrass, it has what I call wiregrass. It looks very healthy. It looks the way Blue Springs has looked for 40 years. Yes, the nitrates are up in blue. There's signs of algae in blue on the plant life and on the tree roots, which the tree roots are dead, by the way. Rum Island has a little hydroa in it. And when you drop down to there, all the springs at Ginnie Springs has no plant life. But it does have a lot of slime on the bottom and on the rock. Basically, the only thing that's living in there besides the fish is algae. I've never seen it this way in 40 years. Last year, about this time, Bob Knight was there, and they did a study at that time. We had a lot of plant life in the springs. That study ended the week Debbie came in, which was a very quick flood that came up and down. At that time, we had eelgrass in the runs at Ginnie and Dogwood. We had eelgrass in Devil's Eye. We had a lot of hydroa in all the springs and a little bit of the wiregrass. The biggest issue here is the springs, of course, but also the springs are impacting the river. And the Santa Fe River, there is no plant life in the Santa Fe River right now to speak of. It's very sad. So, yes, I made some notes here, and after hearing some of this, I just felt like seeing is believing. And any of you that would like to come out to Ginnie Springs and take a peek while you're in town, you're more than welcome. Doors open. So I do think coming out and seeing it would be very helpful here. I want to look at some of these notes here. I kind of went off record, but I just had to address real issues. The pollution. What I'm looking at here is, in a karst environment, this is not the right place to be farming, number one. It's all sand. The fertilizer doesn't have time to be on the uptake. You're using a lot of water. We're seeing a lot of movement in nitrates, where I have 2 farms adjacent to Ginnie Springs that I've been arguing with the district about. And it's kind of funny that the plant life disappeared when one of them just got permitted. But anyway, the nitrates, we're having fast movement in nitrates. Nitrates can go from 8 in a short time of 3 months, be down to 1.4. That's a 100-acre field. I just don't know where to start here. I mean, basically, we got to decide if we're going to keep fermenting in a spring shed, if we're going to keep fertilizing in a spring shed, we're going to keep over pumping a spring shed. I mean, this is just the last 2 questions up there. Nothing's been done in 40 years. I don't even know how to think that they're going to address it now and do something. I mean, honestly, the upper Santa Fe River is being overpumped. It's never been like that before. It is truly being overpumped. It's being dewatered. The nitrates in the river, the last 2 summers, I never thought I'd live this long to see the river in this kind of shape. And to recreate in that river is disgusting. And this year right now, we've done a river cleanup, so I've spent a lot of time diving the last 2 weeks. The whole bottom of the river is slime. And that is, it's just all out. Once it starts busting loose, it's going to be on the surface, and here we go again. I think we really just got to look at what's going on here. I mean, we can all talk about everything, but what's really happening here to the springs and to this river, it's agriculture. It's not the little old lady out there with her flower pot. It's not, it is ag, 100%, what is happening to the springs at Ginnie Springs. And I think Poe has got a lot of influence too from farming. And I guess we just have to ask ourselves in the district, are we going to keep permitting when we know the shape of the springs in the river? Obviously, the plants in farming here in this sand environment, this karst environment, it doesn't work. There's no way the plant can take it up fast enough. And the nutrients just go straight into the aquifer. We're getting rapid movement, and it's coming straight to a spring near you. And the bottom line is, then you got the river mess. So this is bigger than the springs. The springs is the carrier of it, but the river is the recipient of it. And we really, we've studied this. Dr. Knight has studied the issues. We've all studied this. And right now, I think it's down to fish or cut bait. We got to just, I can't imagine that we're still issuing permits in this in this karst environment. The other thing, the model they have does not work in this karst environment. I mean, it's basically, it never says no. It's like having a checkbook with $10,000 in it, and if you never write the check over 10, if you write 9999 every time, the next permit's good to go. I've never, it's really sad. The model does not work. The model doesn't even show Ginnie Springs on it. None of the springs, 7 springs on it, one of them's first magnitude. Not even on the model. How in the hell? You gotta be kidding me. I mean, this is embarrassing. And it's all of our tax money. The district is the enabler for this to happen. And it's hard, but it's really hard for me to get up here. And it's really hard to see the springs in this river in this shape. I mean, it's disgusting. There's nothing pretty about slime. And I invited Eric out. We had a meeting, spring workshop with many of the great outdoors, and I invited him to come out and look at my springs. And I can assure you that it's not swimmers that have pulled up all the vegetation. If they did, they've been working overtime because they got it all in the river too. So, this is.
Would you mind addressing any questions if there are any, Mark?
Oh, I'd love to take all the questions.
Or comments?
Yes, ma'am, Doctor.
Hi, I was wondering if after the algae outbreak last summer, if you saw a reduced income at Ginnie.
Yes, and it also really cost us quite a bit of money too. I mean, just trying to keep that mess where you could recreate at Ginnie Springs. It was very costly. And yes, I did not have a banner year this year. It's kind of hard to keep something like that quiet.
Any questions?
Marilyn?
Well, I have a question that I have a comment.
Uh-oh.
I actually, I live on the river. I live close to Ginnie Springs. My name is Marilyn Malwitz Jusen, and I'm with our Santa
this once before. I brought this with me to the EPA ruling hearing that happened in Jacksonville, I think 2 years ago. And I'd like to share with you some of our river that he's talking about. So these are the problems that we have on our river. Anybody that would like to see the algae, this came from my backyard right at the river's edge. So that's what I'd like to share.
Drink it.
Thank you. Lou?
Yeah, I just want to say something real quick that Dr. Marsall mentioned was that Georgia is less protective of their water than we are. Georgia enacted a moratorium on consumptive use permits in the southwest part of the state, which I don't think Florida has ever done. And there was mention in the newspaper articles that I read that one of the reasons they were able to do that was that there was widespread agreement by agriculture that they were worried about their water too. I really think we're all in this together, and it behooves us all to work together to try to solve these problems.
Thank you. Any comments on that?
Well, this
We
is,
got about 1 minute left.
okay, yes, question number 2. I think a moratorium would be great for the district right now. I also think they ought to look at rolling back some of the main polluters in the spring shed. When I say rolling back, possibly denying the permit. What's going on in the spring shed, there's things in here very elevated with nitrates. And what's happening around Ginnie Springs, you have a honeycomb effect right around the spring area, and that nitrate is moving very quickly and is coming out of the springs.
Thank you, Mark.